fẹ́ máa wò, ọ̀rọ̀ tó jẹ tí ń gbèsè mo fẹ́ gbọ́, ètò lóríṣiríṣi wọ́n wà lọ́lọ́kan òjọ̀kan, ìròyìn tó kojú òṣùwọ̀n àtàwọn ọ̀rọ̀ àgbọ́ fi kọ́gbọ́n, eré wọlé fún tẹ̀rù tọmọ tèwe tàgbà ẹ má fi para. Èjìlá TV mo fẹ́ máa wò, ọ̀rọ̀ tó jẹ tí ń gbèsè mo fẹ́ gbọ́, ètò lóríṣiríṣi wọ́n wà lọ́lọ́kan òjọ̀kan, ìròyìn tó kojú òṣùwọ̀n àtàwọn ọ̀rọ̀ àgbọ́ fi kọ́gbọ́n, eré wọlé fún tẹ̀rù tọmọ tèwe tàgbà ẹ má fi para. Àjànàkú kọjá mórí nǹkan fèrè, bàbá rere káwí parí. BGI TV, we are the pace setters. Bàbá gbàgede ìmọ̀ tẹlifíṣọ̀n station tí dòde.
Mo kí gbogbo ojú tó ń wò mí káàkiri ayé, mo kí wa lọ́kùnrin lóbìnrin lọ́mọdé lágbà nínú ilé yìí. Mo kí wa wípé a kú dédé àsìkò yìí o, àsìkò gbójú ọjọ́ ti rí ẹ̀ẹ́dẹ́ odóbi àdúpẹ́ Nàìjíríà àṣà ń ṣe bó ṣe gbàṣà. Ohun tó ń dùn mí tó sì yà mí lẹ́nu ni pé ọjọ́ wo ló dà tí Yorùbá, ọjọ́ wo ló dà tí Yorùbá tá a fẹ́ gbọ́ràn, ọjọ́ wo ló dà tí Yorùbá fẹ́ bọ́ nínú ọwọ́ crime àbáwọn criminal. Ọ̀pọ̀lọpọ̀ sá sí ìlú òyìnbó, wọn ò fẹ́ wálé. Kí ló fà á? Torí crime yìí ni. Ẹ má bínú mo ní kàtà òtútù ti bẹ̀rẹ̀ díẹ̀díẹ̀ Nàìjíríà, ìdẹ́sọ̀ rẹ tèmi mo ti ní kàtàkàtà. Náà kan tí mò ń sọ bọ̀ ni pé kí ló dé tó jẹ́ pé crime làwọn èèyàn máa ń involve gbogbo gbà ní Nàìjíríà. Látara criminal act táwọn Fúlàní gbé dé ló mú Ìgbòho jáde síta tóun náà fi wá jàǹgbà yẹn. Ìgbà tí wọ́n interview ẹjọ́ kìíní àná, ó sọ bẹ́ẹ̀ náà pé kò sí nǹkan tó mú òun jáde nígbà tí wọ́n ń pagbá tí wọ́n ń pàwò. Ṣáàná tí Dr. Aborode tí wọ́n pa ní fọ̀nàfọ̀ṣù, lóòótọ́ o tí ẹ̀ wà controversial, wọ́n ló lóṣèlú ló pa, wọ́n ní àwọn kan ní Fúlàní ni, èyíkéyìí tóun kò jẹ́ ń bẹ̀. Wọ́n ní àṣà confam pé Fúlàní náà, bó bá jẹ́ olóṣèlú náà ló pa, Fúlàní ni wọ́n lò láti fi pa. Tó bá jẹ́ Fúlàní náà ni jẹ́ Fúlàní confam. Kí ni ká wá ṣe? Ìgbòho ń gbà yẹn ó pariwo, ó sọ tiẹ̀ gbàgbára ẹ̀ ṣe ká. Wọ́n ní kó mórí wá káwọn bẹ́ẹ̀ ni. Ntọ́mọkùnrin yẹn sọ gbà yẹn ó padà jájó gbogbo wa lójú, everybody rí. Ó mọ̀rọ̀ sọ kò mọ̀rọ̀ sọ, n tó sọ ń gbà náà bí ìgbà pé prophet sọ̀rọ̀, ohun tó jà fún, ohun tó try láti prevent, ó padà ṣẹlẹ̀, ó padà tabára lé, ó tabára oko. Kódà Àbújá fúnra rẹ̀ tó jẹ́ federal capital kò bọ́ nínú ẹ̀, nínú kidnapping. Àìmọye ẹni tí wọ́n gbé l'Àbújá, àìmọye àwọn ọmọ sẹ́nétọ̀ náà tí wọ́n forí kó. Nílẹ̀ Yorùbá àwọn Fúlàní tẹ̀ ní kí ló ṣubú táwọn ń bẹ̀. Àtẹni búgbò àtẹntóyìn, èmi mọ̀ àwọn kan tó jẹ́ pé wọ́n bú dáadáa ni, ó padà kàn wọ́n, tí mo wá padà rán wọn létí pé níjọ́ kìíní àná tí mò ń lo channel mi láti fi promote crusade Ìgbòho, ṣé ẹ rántí ń tẹ́ ẹ sọ? Ṣé ẹ rántí pé báyìí lẹ́yìn sọ ń pa mi, pé èmi náà ti dàlúrú, èmi náà ti jẹ́ criminal, nísìnyí wá kọ́ báwo lọ́hùn? Ó ní kí n ṣáà máa wo tèmi o. Tó bá jẹ́ pé irú yìí náà gbóhùn sókè ńgbà yẹn, kí gbogbo àwa Yorùbá ti panupọ̀ ńgbà yẹn, ká ti lérun bí lọ nílùú, wọn ò ní ráyè fẹ́ fùrọ̀ o. Àmọ́ ńgbà tí Fúlàní dé, tí wọ́n fi lọ̀ wá, táwa náà dẹ̀ gbà lọ́wọ́ wọn, náà wọ́n wò pé òkè ìlú ìrọ̀, béèyàn bá ráyè ṣu àfọwọ́ á tó dáwọ́ tẹ́lẹ̀ ní o. nígbà tí wọ́n ti rí pójú wá rọ̀ Yorùbá lójú tó bá rọ̀ onírorẹ́ ń so pimples náà pè rorẹ́ ojú tó bá rọ̀ ló ń so. nígbà tí wọ́n ti rí pé eléyìí kankan wà bẹ́ẹ̀ ni wọn lẹ́ni fẹ́ gbèjà wọn lẹ́ni bọ́dún àwọn náà yà fẹ́ furọ̀ ẹnìkan ṣoṣo tó tún jàjà dìde tó sọ̀rọ̀ àwọn èèyàn ní kó mórí wá kó fọrùn lẹ̀. nígbà yẹn BBC lọ bí léèrè pé what is your mission? ohun tó ń jà fún yìí kí ni nǹkan ọ̀hún kí ló dé? Why are you doing this? Ìgbòho sọ̀rọ̀ dáadáa ń gbà yẹn. ṣé fídíò yẹn wà mẹ́ṣọ́ ti rẹ́dì? ẹ̀kọ́ mo fẹ́ rí torí pé níbi tí mò ń lọ ìmíì tó ti ṣẹlẹ̀ sẹ́lòmíì ni o ìmíì tó ti ṣẹlẹ̀ sẹ́lòmíì another professor ìmíì tó ti ṣẹlẹ̀ sí kódà ìyẹn ní ayé òun ò tún jẹ́ fẹsẹ̀ tẹ Nàìjíríà mọ́ ntójú ẹ̀rí gbogbo tó lò Nàìjíríà wọ kò ju láàrin 2-3 days lọ tójú ẹ̀ tán ti fi ojú ẹ̀ hàn màbò kódà wọ́n fẹ́ tì mọ́lé dánwò tó ráyè escape báyọ̀ lóhun láyé òun ò tó dé Nàìjíríà yìí mọ́. ẹnìkan wá sẹ́ndì iṣẹ́ yẹn sí mi pé kí n wo tútọ́ tó pa fẹ́lẹ́ Nàìjíríà ẹni ẹlẹ́ni tó wọlé wá ó yá méré ó lóun ò wá Nàìjíríà mọ́ ọjọ́ ò la fẹ́ bọ́ bọ́rọ̀ òun ṣe bẹ̀rẹ̀ ẹjẹ́ ìfẹ́lẹ́ ìran wa létí gbogbo nǹkan tí Ìgbòho sọ ń gbà yẹn nínú interview yìí màá wá bí wá padà pé èwo ni ò ṣe ń bẹ̀ èwo ni kò ṣe nígbà tọmọkùnrin yìí dìde ń gbà yẹn tó ń ṣe gbogbo wàhálà tó ń ṣe yìí gbà náà ká ní káwa èèyàn dìde mọ́ ni kíkú ṣe pówó ló ń wá. This man was a millionaire then. We all saw him. Mansion tó ń gbé yẹn. Àsàndìgbà tó kọ́ mansion yẹn. I am too sure. Kò lè less than 50 to 60 million tó fi kọ́. So, he was in money before. Kó tó di pé bẹ́ẹ̀ sí ní jàjà yẹn. Ìṣòwò wa ló need. Mi dẹ̀ rí millionaire kan Nàìjíríà yìí. Tó máa sọ pé èmi náà ṣàyà gbangba mo fẹ́ gbèjà àwọn èèyàn mi àìtí lówó ni o bí ọba ní owó wàláhì kò ní fẹ́ kí nǹkan kan kàn òun báyìí torí kò ní fẹ́ kúrò láyé bẹ́ẹ̀ ti gbowó owó yẹn ẹ wo mọ́tò ńláńlá tán bá nù lé ẹ̀ kéèyàn nírú yẹn kó wá sọ pé dandan ìjà ìlú kan lòun fẹ́ máa gbé nínú ọgbẹ̀yìn olówó wa tẹ́ ìwò mi ewó ló lè ṣe bẹ́ẹ̀ nú yín olówó máa ṣọ́ra ẹ̀ ní ìgbádùn wà lẹ̀ ayédèdùn jẹjòyà lọ àrẹ kò ní fẹ́ kò tiẹ̀ ní fẹ́ dánwò kò tiẹ̀ ní láìkẹ̀ kò ní fẹ́ nǹkan tó lè jọ̀gẹ̀dẹ̀ lọ no olówó ní láìkẹ̀ bẹ́tẹ́lẹ̀ yóò kí ẹ̀ ìfẹ́ ìlú ló wà lórí ẹ̀mí ẹ̀ ju gbogbo tó ní lọ. Ìdí nìyẹn tọ́lọ́dẹ̀ fi kó yọ gbà tí DSS ti dé. Mo tẹ̀ gbọ́ pé ó ti sọ̀rọ̀ nípa in tó ṣẹlẹ̀ ìjọ yẹn pàápàá. Mo gbọ́ pé ó ti sọ̀rọ̀ ń pa ẹ̀. Interview tó ṣe fún ìjọ yẹn ohun tó ló fàárì tóun fi bẹ̀rẹ̀ gbogbo wàhálà tóun ṣe ó yá.
Nàntí ọkàn mi ṣùgbọ́n ohun tó kàn mí mo dá sí torí pé ọmọ Yorùbá ni mí. Bí ìjọba bá wà tí ò sí ẹ̀tọ́ tó yẹ kó ṣe fún aráàlú tí wọ́n dìbò fún tó jẹ̀jọba lé lórí. Tíjọba bá wà tí ààbò bá sí fún aráàlú tó olóòṣèjọba lé lórí aráàlú dìde fúnra ẹ̀. PhD doc ó wá lọ lu bàbá ẹ̀ ní gangan ó dá oko àgbàdo ẹ̀gẹ́ iṣu oríṣiríṣi nǹkan soya beans ó dẹ̀ gba ọmọ wa ní gangan bẹ́ẹ̀ náà sí bẹ̀rẹ̀ pẹ̀tẹ́ tán bá ṣiṣẹ́ Fúlàní wa jẹ oko ẹ̀ ó wá gbéra láti lọ bá àwọn Fúlàní yìí sọ̀rọ̀ láti lọ bá Sẹ́ríkì Fúlàní pé ẹ wá wo ohun tí àwọn ọmọ yín ṣe lórí oko mi kò yẹ kó rí báyìí lórí ilẹ̀ bàbá mi wọ́n dẹ̀ dé lókun bẹ̀ náà wọ́n dẹ̀ sàpà àìmọye èèyàn bẹ́ẹ̀ tá a lè múrúkọ wọn làwọn Fúlàní yìí bẹ́ lórí tí wọ́n pa wọ́n jí àwọn kan gbé ẹni tí wọ́n bá gbowó tó kéré lọ́wọ́ rẹ̀ wọ́n gba 7 million wọ́n gba 10 million wọ́n gba 11 million lórí ilẹ̀ bàbá wa. Ọ̀rọ̀ yìí dùn mí ó bà mí lọ́kàn jẹ́ gan pé tá a bá torí pé tó Ọlọ́run gbà fáwa àwa ará àwọn ọmọ tí tẹ̀lé wa tó ń ṣààbò fún wa àwọn tí ọ̀lẹ́ni tí ó tẹ̀lé wọn kọ́ ìdí nìyí tó mú mi lọ síbẹ̀ yẹn ìgbà tí mo dẹ̀ débẹ̀ ohun tí mo lọ fún ni pé láti lọ bá a pé sógun tí ń ṣẹlẹ̀ yìí lórí ilẹ̀ wa sọ́dà ẹ ti ń gbé pẹ̀lú wa adẹ̀fàyè gbà yín àbá yín jà àṣẹ nǹkan jàǹbá fún yín. Ọ̀rọ̀ yìí ni mò ń bá Sẹ́ríkì sọ̀rọ̀ làwọn ọmọ rẹ̀ yí ọ̀bọ̀n sí mi mo gba ìbọn yẹn lọ́wọ́ ìkan yọ àké àgbà ìkejì tún yọ ìbọn mi ìyẹn ti ẹ̀yìn ẹni bá wọnú fídíò yẹn tọ́ra fídíò wọn ó yin ìbọn yẹn sí mi kí n tó lọ́bọ̀ yẹn mọ́ lọ́wọ́ ẹ bá gbọ́ fídíò yẹn pé ìbọn bẹ̀rẹ̀ sí dáhùn bẹ́ẹ̀ wọ́n yin ìbọn sí mi bẹ́ẹ̀ kí n tó bájà wá ẹ̀yin pípò yìí tí n bá bájà wá ẹ̀ ní dúró tẹ́ ẹ bá ti wá lè wá àtúnṣe sí ọ̀rọ̀ jíjígbé àti pípa àwọn ẹ̀gbọ́n wa àtàwọn àǹtí wa àwọn bọ̀dá wa àtàwọn ìyá mi àtàwọn bàbá mi tẹ́ ẹ̀jẹ̀ wọn ò lo okó mọ́ yé o ó fẹ́ tàkẹ́ forílẹ̀ bàbá wa lẹ̀ ọ̀rọ̀ tá à ń fà yìí sọ̀rọ̀ ẹ̀sìn kí sọ̀rọ̀ ọjà àwọn kan gbé wọ́n fẹ́ pa àwọn mùsùlùmí kílọ̀kàn mi kan mùsùlùmí kílọ̀kàn mi kan kírísítẹ̀n kílọ̀kàn mi kan gbogbo tá à ń fà yìí èmi ò nídìí kankan àlàáfíà Yorùbá ni mò ń wá mi ń fẹ́ kankan bẹ́ẹ̀ ẹ̀rù ń bà wọn bàbá wa ní inú tí wọn ní òdùn bí wọ́n ṣe ń pa wá bí Fúlàní ṣe ń jí wa gbé tó ń gbowó lálá lọ́wọ́ wa níwọ̀n òdùn ṣùgbọ́n ẹ̀rù ń bà wọ́n kán bá wọn yọ wọn nípò ibi tí wọ́n wà sẹ́mọ̀ wípé ńgbà tí wọ́n ń jí àwọn aráàlú gàngàn gbé tí wọ́n ń pa wọ́n tẹ́nìkan kan sọ̀rọ̀ ń bọ̀ ya wọ́n lọ jí ọmọ ọba gangan gbé ọmọ ọba tí ń bẹ lórí yẹn gangan lọ́wọ́lọ́wọ́ wọ́n jí ọmọ bàbá gangan gbé fúnra ẹ̀ tó fọ́kọ́ díẹ̀ bí wọ́n sì gba 4 million lọ́wọ́ bàbá kan tó gbọ́ ọmọ bàbá fún bàbá àwọn Fúlàní torí pé ń bọ̀ ọba ya ayé ti gba àwọn Fúlàní débi pé wọ́n wá gbé ọba fúnra ẹ̀ nú ààfin wọ́n ní kọ́ lọ mú kí gbogbo aráàlú lọ dáwọ́ jọ.
ní ìgbà yẹn n tó fà á tí gbòó fi jáde ni now all of a sudden arákùnrin kan náà tún wọ̀lú ó tún wọ Nàìjíríà wá mò ń bọ̀ orúkọ arákùnrin náà máa jẹ́ Professor Moyo Okediji. Professor Moyo Okediji jẹ́ lecturer nílùú òyìnbó wọ́n ti pẹ́ nílùú òyìnbó tí wọ́n ti ń lecture níbẹ̀ all of a sudden bàbá yìí rò pé ẹ jẹ́ káwọn wá invest sí Nàìjíríà bá a ṣe báwọn èèyàn ṣe sọ pé Nàìjíríà ò dá àwọn kan wà tó jẹ́ pé ìfẹ́ Nàìjíríà ṣì wà lórí ẹ̀mí wọn tí wọ́n rò pé àwọn sì lè lọ síbẹ̀ káwọn invest despite gbogbo àwọn tó ti wá táàrí tí wọ́n ti pa bẹ́ẹ̀ náà làwọn míì wà tí wọ́n dé tán invest tí ó dẹ̀ sí nǹkankan bàbá yìí wá wọn wá gba Nàìjíríà direct ẹ̀rù ń bà wọ́n kí ló wá ṣẹlẹ̀ ni pé wọ́n gba Ghana wọlé ẹ tiẹ̀ má jẹ́ sọ lórí ẹ jẹ́ nǹkan right up wọn kákú gbọ́ Yorùbá ní ẹnu onípọ̀ ẹnu oníkànlá tí ń gbọ́ pọ̀ ọ̀hún ẹ jẹ́ agbọ́gbọ́n látẹnu wọn wọ́n ní Professor Moyo máa fi bá ń picture wọn sí Professor Moyo Okediji wrote, without the intervention of a crowd of young Igbo young men who saved me from the hands of the Nigerian police attached to the Festac Mile 2 station, I will be a dead man today. Wọ́n sọ pé tí kì bá ṣe ọpẹ́lọpẹ́ àwọn ọmọ Yíbò tí wọ́n jẹ́ ọ̀dọ́ tí wọ́n wà ní Festac wọ́n ní ìtàwọn tá à ń sọ yìí o àwọn ò bá ti dẹran yẹ̀pẹ̀ àwọn ò bá ti dẹni tí wọ́n gbé gbèbìṣù. Wọ́n ní I arrived Lagos today wọ́n láwọn dé sílùú Èkó lónìí. I came in through Ghana and decided to enter Nigeria by road so I could see the lagoon landscape, riding a jeep that I hired to drive me down. Everything went well in Ghana, Togo, Benin Republic until I stepped into Nigeria. Na there trouble start ooo. Bàbá yẹn ní nǹkan tí ń lọ dáadáa, ìrìn àjò yẹn ti ń lọ dáadáa láti Ghana, torí báwọn ṣe dé Ghana àwọn decide pé káwọn gba títì wọlé sí Nàìjíríà, káwọn wọ Nàìjíríà by road. Wọ́n ní ìrìn àjò náà ti ń lọ dáadáa ní Ghana, láti Ghana lọ sí Togo, wọ́n ní láti Togo dé Benin Republic kò sí wàhálà rárá fáwọn, wọ́n náà wà òkè. Wọ́n ní ìdí táwọn dẹ̀ fi fẹ́ travel by road láti Ghana ni pé àwọn fẹ́ rí gbogbo omi òkun, omi ọ̀sà nínú jíìpù táwọn gbà tó máa gbé àwọn wá sí Nàìjíríà. Wọ́n ní gbàrà táwọn ti kúrò ní bọ́dà Benin, táwọn ti tẹ bọ́dà Nàìjíríà báyìí ni wàhálà ti bẹ̀rẹ̀ sáwọn. The first immigration checkpoint that we encountered was at the same border, was at the Seme border on the Nigerian side. Wọ́n ní àwọn immigration àkọ́kọ́, àwọn checkpoint àkọ́kọ́, àwọn immigration táwọn kọ́kọ́ pàdé ní checkpoint àkọ́kọ́ ní òní Seme border. Seme border yẹn ibẹ̀ dẹ̀ tún súnmọ́ ti Nàìjíríà. Wọ́n ní one of the immigration officers took a look at me and said, "Come down, Oga." Wọ́n ní immigration yẹn wọ́n ló wo àwọn báyìí, wọ́n ló sọ pé ọ̀gá ẹ bọ́lẹ̀. To cut a long story short, they robbed me off of $500. Wọ́n ní lẹ́sẹ̀kẹsẹ̀ ni wọ́n ti jí $500 lọ́wọ́ àwọn lẹ́yìn tí wọ́n ti gba owó lọ́wọ́ wọn. Fídíò tẹ́ ẹ wò bá ti ṣó fídíò yẹn, fídíò tẹ́ ẹ wò yẹn tẹ́ ẹ wò lábẹ́lẹ̀ yìí á ṣó ẹ̀ fún yín full ní fídíò tí wọ́n ṣe lé ọ̀rọ̀ yìí lórí. There were many of them and they invited them to their shed. There were many of them and they invited me, ló yẹ kọ́kọ́ síbẹ̀, they invited me to their shed. Wọ́n ní wọ́n pọ̀ rẹpẹtẹ, wọ́n sì ní káwọn máa bọ̀ ní abẹ́ ibùsọ̀ tí wọ́n máa ń dúró sí. They took my hand luggage with all the money that I brought from the US. Wọ́n ní wọ́n gba àwọn ẹrù táwọn gbé dání pẹ̀lú gbogbo owó táwọn kó sí inú tó wà nínú báàgì ibẹ̀ táwọn kó bọ̀ láti US. Wọ́n ní wọ́n gba àwọn owó yìí. The excuse was that they wanted to search it to see if I contained contraband. Wọ́n lọ sọ pé àwọn yẹ gbogbo nǹkan yìí wò torí àwọn fẹ́ wò kó má lọ jẹ́ pé àwọn nǹkan tí ìlú kọ̀ tí ò sí lábẹ́ òfin àwọn fẹ́ kó wọlé. They asked for my Nigerian passport. Wọ́n béèrè passport àwọn ti Nigeria. I told them it had expired and I was in Nigeria to renew it. Mo sọ fún wọn pé passport mi ti Nigeria ti expire o. Mo padà wá sí Nigeria láti wá tún passport yìí ṣe. They said it was an offence for me to enter the country with an expired passport. Wọ́n wá sọ pé fún ẹ láti wọ ìlú yìí pẹ̀lú passport Nigeria tó ti expire, wọ́n lẹ́sẹ̀ tó tóbi ni. I apologized but they wanted none of that. Wọ́n ní mo bẹ̀bẹ̀ ṣùgbọ́n wọn ò ṣetán láti tẹ́tí gbọ́ mi. They said I had to settle them. They had my wallet containing the money I brought to spend in Nigeria. Wọ́n lọ sọ pé káwọn tó bẹ̀bẹ̀ àfi kó settle àwọn o. Lẹ́sẹ̀kẹsẹ̀ ni wọ́n ti yọ wallet táwọn tí owó wà nú ẹ̀ táwọn mú bọ̀ látọ̀hún. Kíá ni wọ́n ti yọ wallet yẹn lára wọn. They saw two $20 notes and said I needed to give them these notes. Otherwise, they will seize all the money in the wallet and take me to their offices to make a statement. Wọ́n ní wọ́n rí $220 nínú wallet yìí. Wọ́n náà sọ pé àfi kó fún wa lówó yìí èló ní $220 sí odindi immigration Nigeria. $200 lọ́wọ́ yìí ó jẹ́ 200,000 kásá ní 200,000 plus $20 20 something thousand ṣé 220,000 odindi immigration Nigeria bọ́n ṣe ló ní kìmí tó. They saw the $220 and they asked me to give them the note. Wọ́n wá tọrọ owó yẹn pé àfi kó gbàgbé owó yìí fún wa o láì kò ṣe bẹ́ẹ̀ gbogbo ẹrù tó kó wá ìpátá àtọwó tó wà bẹ́ẹ̀ la máa seize. I had heard stories of visitors to the country ending up dead when the police invited them to their office to clear some issues. Nínú ọ̀rọ̀ yẹn wọ́n sọ pé àwọn àṣìṣe ẹrù ẹ àwọn adẹ́tún gbé àwọn lọ sí àwọn agbé ẹ lọ sí ọ́fíìsì àwọn láti lọ kọ statement. Bàbá yìí láwọn dẹ̀ ti gbọ́ ìtàn dáadáa lórí àwọn tó jẹ́ pé àwọn agbófinró tó gbé lọ sọ́fíìsì wọn tó máa jẹ́ pé àlejò ni wọ́n láti ìlú mi ṣùgbọ́n tó bá ti dé ọ́fíìsì wọn àlọ́ láyé máa rí wọn ò ní rí àbọ̀ wọn mọ́. So I eagerly gave them the $40. Okay, $20 méjì péré tí ẹ ní má ṣe o ọlọ́mọ má ṣe wá lóníṣẹ́ o. $20 méjì péré ni wọ́n rí inú wọ́lẹ̀tì yẹn ó jẹ́ $40. Bàbá yẹn ní lẹ́sẹ̀kẹsẹ̀ ló ti gbàgbé $40 yẹn fún wọn pé ẹ máa kó lọ. They gave me back my things, but when I counted my money later $500 was missing. Wọ́n ní wọ́n kó àwọn nǹkan wọn fáwọn padà ṣùgbọ́n gbà táwọn máa ka owó àwọn $500 ti miss kúrò ń bẹ̀ mo rò pọ̀ rí $500 ẹ̀ tẹ́lẹ̀ bẹ̀ tán padà rí wọ́n yọ. Then the jeep driver drove me to the Festac Mile 2 motor park where another driver I hired to take me to Ile-Ife was waiting. Wọ́n ní driver yẹn ó wá àwọn lọ sí Mile 2 níbi tí ní motor park Mile 2 níbi tó jẹ́ pé mọ́tò míì ti ń dúró tó fẹ́ gbé àwọn lọ sí Ile-Ife. My two suitcases were on the floor at the Mile 2 Festac in public, right under the large gate to Festac. I was narrating my ordeal in the hands of the immigration to my driver when 3-gun toting police officer appeared. Wọ́n ní àwọn sì gbé àwọn ẹrù àwọn suitcases àwọn méjì àwọn sì gbé sílẹ̀ lẹ̀ kó máa tò sínú mọ́tò làwọn ń ṣàlàyé tójú àwọn rí lọ́wọ́ àwọn immigration Nàìjíríà fún driver tó fẹ́ gbé wọn lọ sífẹ̀. Wọ́n sì ń sọ yẹn lọ́wọ́ làwọn ọlọ́pàá bá dé. Wọ́n láwọn ọlọ́pàá yìí wọ́n gbé bọ̀dá ní wọ́n jẹ́ méjì àwọn jẹ́ mẹ́ta when 3-gun toting police officers appeared. Àwọn ọlọ́pàá mẹ́ta tó dì hàhàrà gan ni wọ́n dé. They wanted to see the content of my bags. Má ṣe o. Wọ́n ní àwọn ọlọ́pàá mẹ́tẹ̀ẹ̀ta yìí ní ẹjẹ́ àwọn tẹ́ kó sínú ẹrù. As they searched the bags nígbà tí wọ́n search báàgì àwọn they came upon the money I brought from the US. Wọ́n rí àwọn owó tí wọ́n kó wá láti US. I introduced myself to them as a professor at the University of Texas, Houston. Mo introduce ara mi sí wọn wípé professor ni mo jẹ́ o ní University of Texas ní Houston. They asked for identification. Wọ́n béèrè ìdánimọ̀. I gave them my driver's license, my driving license, the university issued ID card, my US passport and my Nigerian passport. Àmì ìdánimọ̀ tí wọ́n béèrè yìí mo fún wọn ní àwọn àmì ìdánimọ̀ tí mo ní lọ́wọ́ bí ìwé ìrìnnà mi driver's license, ìwé ìwakọ̀ mi driver's license. Mo fún wọn ní university ID card, university tó ti ń lecture ní Texas. ID card táwọn yẹn issue fún wọn wọ́n láwọn fi hàn wọ́n. Mo fi US passport mi mo fi hàn wọ́n. Mo dẹ̀ fi Nigerian passport mi hàn wọ́n. They took them from me. Wọ́n gbà lọ́wọ́ mi. By the time about 10 police officers had descended upon me. Nigeria ojú dẹ̀ ń tì mí bóyá kakini wàhálà ojú ń tì mí. Ìjọ́ wo ni gbogbo jágbajàgba ìlàfẹ́ bọ́ bẹ́ẹ̀? Kò yẹ kó táyọ̀ bá ti lóyìnbó dé àfikún ní bad experience ní Nàìjíríà yìí. Kí ló dé? When are we going to change? Okay. Wọ́n ní wọ́n gba àwọn nǹkan ẹ̀ lọ́wọ́ àwọn ká tó wí ká tó fọ̀ wọ́n ti tú ọlọ́pàá 10 lórí àwọn nìkan. Also listening were some Igbo guys hanging out at the motor park. Wọ́n ní yàtọ̀ sáwọn ọlọ́pàá yìí àwọn ọmọ Igbo kan dúró káàkiri ní motor park yẹn tí wọ́n wo drama tó ń ṣẹlẹ̀. Before you could say kí ló dé, the police officer searched me thoroughly. Wọ́n ní kí làwọn tó sọ pé kí ló dé báyìí, àwọn ọlọ́pàá yìí wọ́n ti search gbogbo ara àwọn látòkè délẹ̀. Then they started searching my bag. Wọ́n wá bẹ̀rẹ̀ sí ní wọnú báàgì àwọn. They found that my suitcases contained my personal effect. Wọ́n wá rí pé àwọn ẹrù àwọn gangan ló wà nínú suitcase yìí o. They were interested in a pair of shorts which they said looked like camouflage shorts. They pulled out the shorts. Then there was a sculpture that I made which they said was juju. Ọlọ́run Nàìjíríà ó mà ṣe o. Wọ́n ní ṣòkòtò pépé kan táwọn wọ̀ tó wà nínú aṣọ yìí, wọ́n ní wọ́n ẹsẹ̀kẹsẹ̀ ni wọ́n mú náà sọ pé ó jọ camouflage àwọn ọlọ́pàá. Bákan náà ni pé àwọn nǹkan ẹ̀ṣọ́ ilé sculptor tó fi gbígbẹ́ tó wà lọ́wọ́ àwọn, wọ́n ní ni wọ́n sọ pé ó jọ oògùn, it resemble juju. They decided to seize my suitcase, hand luggage, ID card and all of my money. Wọ́n ní lẹ́sẹ̀kẹsẹ̀ ni wọ́n ti sọ pé àwọn máa seize hand luggage àwọn, ìyẹn àwọn ẹrù àwọn, ID card àti gbogbo owó àwọn pátá. They said I had to follow them to the police station. Wọ́n lọ sọ pé ẹsẹ̀kẹsẹ̀ àfi káwọn tẹ̀lé wọn dé police station. At this point, a sizable crowd of some 50 people had gathered. Wọ́n ní lẹ́sẹ̀kẹsẹ̀ èrò ti pìtì mù sórí àwọn bí èèyàn 50 wọ́n ti dé sórí àwọn. One of them with an obvious Igbo accent said, "You can see he is a professor from abroad. He has given you several ID cards including his passport. Wetin you dey find again now?" Wọ́n náà ọmọ Igbo yìí sọ pé ṣé bẹ́ẹ̀ ti rí gbogbo nǹkan tó kó wá tó fi hàn yìí, ẹ̀dẹ̀ rí pé lẹ́ṣọ́rà ní lóòótọ́ nílùú òyìnbó, àkílẹ̀ tún fẹ́ gan látọ̀wọ́ ẹ̀, kílẹ̀ tún fẹ́ gbà lọ́wọ́ ẹ̀ gan. It was like a signal to the others who began shouting, you wan kill am? You people are thieves. You people are thieves, so highway robbers. It can never happen. Una don see money, una eyes don open abi. Wọ́n lẹ́sẹ̀kẹsẹ̀ làwọn ọmọ Igbo ìbá bogun ta pé láéláé ó lè ní highway robber ní ẹ ti rówó ojú yìí ti ràn àbí kò sí tẹ́lẹ̀ fẹ́lẹ́ ìṣe o. 2 of them jumped into the police vehicle and dragged out my bags from the vehicle. They accosted the one who held the wallet containing my ID card and my money, shouting, "You better give him back in wallet and money now, otherwise wahala will burst o." Wọ́n láwọn méjì bá bọ́ sínú mọ́tò ni wọ́n gbé ẹrù àwọn jáde, èyí tí àti ID card èyí tó ní owó àwọn lọ́wọ́ àti ID card. Lẹ́sẹ̀kẹsẹ̀ náà fohùn lẹ̀ fún pé ó jẹ́ yá fún ní àwọn wọ́lọ̀tì ẹ̀ padà kẹ́dẹ̀ kówó ẹ̀ fún, láì kò ṣe bẹ́ẹ̀ wàhálà máa bẹ́sílẹ̀ nísìn. Another said, "We will not let you take him to the police station to kill him like you always do international visitors." Wọ́n ní èmi wá sọ pé a ní jẹ́ kẹ́ ẹ gbé eléyìí lọ o, kẹ́ ẹ lọ pa bẹ́ẹ̀ ṣe máa ń ṣe fún àwọn tí wọ́n bá jẹ́ àwọn aráàlú òyìnbó tí wọ́n ṣẹ̀ wọ Nàìjíríà. In a matter of moments, about 100 Igbo boys emerged from thin air and surrounded us. Wọ́n ní ká tó wí ká tó fọ̀ o, kí á làwọn ọmọ Igbo ni wọ́n ti yí àwọn ká, àwọn bí 100 ọmọ Igbo ni wọ́n ti yí àwọn ká, ni wọ́n ti bẹ̀rẹ̀ sí ní sọ̀rọ̀ náà ti ń pariwo. The police officer saw they were clearly outnumbered by these Igbo motor park boys. Though some of the police officers carried rifles, they saw that the situation was clearly beyond what they imagined. Wọ́n ní lẹ́sẹ̀kẹsẹ̀ làwọn ọlọ́pàá rí pé ó gbọ́ àìlè ti pọ̀jù àwọn lọ o, lóòótọ́ làwọn gbébọn dání, ṣùgbọ́n eléyìí ìkòkò ajégunjẹran ni, kò sí tí ò lè ṣẹlẹ̀ bí o. The police officers who held my wallet, passport and ID cards quickly handed them over back to me. Hey, that's right. Wọ́n ní lẹ́sẹ̀kẹsẹ̀ ọlọ́pàá tó kó ID card mi dání, tó kó wallet mi dání, tó sì kó passport mi dání, lẹ́sẹ̀kẹsẹ̀ ló kó fún mi padà. The Igbo boys carried my suitcases on their heads. The boys seemingly closed in one of the police officers, ready to attack them for my protection. Ọlẹ́ni tó gbé suitcase òun rù nìyẹn ló súnmọ́ kan náà ọlọ́pàá yẹn ó ṣetán láti bàjà gan láti lè dáàbò bo àwọn ìyẹn professor. The police officers jumped inside their vehicles and drove off to save faces. Their tails cooled behind their brocos. Wọ́n ní báyìí láwọn ọlọ́pàá ìjà lọ́kọ́ wọnú mọ́tò ni wọ́n bá méré bí wọ́n ti lọ rèé. I recall the traumatic moment I left the country in 1992 and swore, if you see me in this God-forsaken country again, cut off my neck. Wọ́n láwọn wá rántí ìbànújẹ́ ńlá kan táwọn bá kúrò ní Nàìjíríà lélẹ̀ táwọn pé lẹ́yìn náà àwọn wá ṣépè wípé àwọn wá búra jàre wípé tẹ́ ẹ bá tún rí mi nílùú yìí ó ńṣe ni kẹ́ ẹ gé ọrùn mi dànù. Obviously, the country has fallen much lower since then and is now a danger zone in which men in uniform of all descriptions, immigration, custom, police vehicles inspection officers and others wearing uniforms, difficult to define. They have all taken over the country and made it very difficult for citizens to enjoy or even just subsist in their own country. Which kind nsogbu be this o? Wọ́n wá ní lárí dájú ní dájúdájú o. Ìlú yìí ti wá di ẹ̀rù jẹ̀jẹ̀ fún gbogbo èèyàn. Lélẹ̀ pàápàá jùlọ láti ọwọ́ àwọn agbófinró bíi immigration, custom, ọlọ́pàá, VIO àti gbogbo ẹnikẹ́ni tó ń wọ uniform. Ìlú yìí ó ti di ẹ̀rù jẹ̀jẹ̀ látọwọ́ wọn. It is a geographical zone best avoided if you can. Arákùnrin sọ̀rọ̀ wàláì ó ní very bad experience o. Ó ní ìlú tẹ́ ń wò yẹn o. Ó ló jẹ́ pé tó o bá lè ṣe láì lọ́bẹ̀ ó ló jẹ́ nǹkan tó yẹ kó o ṣe bẹ́ẹ̀ o kó o má débẹ̀ rárá. But for the intervention of these Igbo boys, I could be locked up in a cell at the Mile 2 First Stack police office now or dead and my body disposed of. Arákùnrin ní tí kì í bá ṣe tàwọn ọmọ Yíbò yìí ni nínú kí wọ́n ti tàwọn ọmọ sẹ́ẹ̀lì ní First Stack police station tàbí káwọn ti di olóògbé nísìnyí. Someone needs to do something somehow if they want to save the citizens of Nigeria from law enforcement officers paid to protect the lives of the people, but jeopardizing the very existence of the citizens they took an oath to assist. Wọ́n wá ní ó di dandan káwọn kan gbé ìgbésẹ̀ láti rí wípé ààbò tó ga tó péye ó wà o. Wọ́n sì gbà wọ́n kúrò lọ́wọ́ ikú òjijì látọ̀dọ̀ àwọn agbófinró nílùú Nàìjíríà. Arákùnrin wa ni God bless these Igbo boys who rescued me from the hands of the obnoxious police officers at the Mile 2 First Stack today. I am sure not all police officers are bad, but those police Mile 2 First Stack officers who attacked me for daring to return to Nigeria on a visit were evil and worse than maggots. Ẹnìyẹn wá sọ pé mo mọ̀ pé àwọn tó dá wà nínú àwọn ọlọ́pàá o kì í ṣe gbogbo náà ni ò dá o ṣùgbọ́n o àwọn tí wọ́n wà ní Mile 2 First Stack town yẹn lélẹ̀ tó jẹ́ pé àwọn tí wọ́n àtáàkì àwọn yẹn tó sì jẹ́ pé gbogbo ẹni tó bá ti ń rìtọ́ọ̀nù sí Nàìjíríà ni wọ́n àtáàkì yẹn wọ́n ní evil tó tóbi ni wọ́n irun bí tó tóbi ni wọ́n lélẹ̀ tó tiẹ̀ jẹ́ pé kódà àwọn tó wá wọ̀sì ju ìdin lọ pàápàá. Professor mo fẹ́ wo orúkọ wọn ni o Professor Moyo Òkèdíjì ohun tójú wọn rí rèé o wọ́n ti sá padà sí Amẹ́ríkà tí wọ́n ti wá o bá ń show picture wọn kí wọ́n fojú ara wọn rí picture bàbá yẹn lẹ̀ ń wò yẹn o wọ́n ní pé ìjọ́kíjọ́ tẹ́ ẹ bá tún rí àwọn Nàìjíríà kẹ́ ẹ gé orí àwọn ṣé tìjú kọ́ lélẹ́yìí láìpẹ́ ìlú òyìnbó kan náà ló ń gun motorbike ló fi ń travel káàkiri wọ́n lọ lọ Ògbómọ̀ṣọ́ sí Ìlọrin àbí síbì kan ṣá l'Ógbómọ̀ṣọ́ yẹn ló ti pàdé àwọn ọlọ́pàá táyẹn náà ti ó wà lórí online tán ti ń sòyìnbó sí wọ́n sọ broken give us money na ẹ̀yà na settle us mo ti ẹ̀gbọ́n pọ́n láwọn ọlọ́pàá ti arrest àwọn méjèèjì wọ́n máa sáàkì wọn torí pọ́n ti rí kó ti di international disgrace fún Nigerian police àsáwọ̀ dẹ̀ ti wà láàrin àwọn uniform men wa àìmọye àwọn repentant Boko Haram tó ti gbà sínú army inú custom inú immigration àìmọye wọn bíbá àìmọye àwọn tó dẹ̀ jẹ́ pé olè ni wọ́n fi uniform yẹn jà ìmí àwùwà báyìí nínú ẹ̀ àwọn míì dẹ̀ wà tán dáa gidi tí wọ́n tọ́ nílé eré tí wọ́n bí nílé mọ̀ràn amọ̀rú wọn dáadáa mú ìwà Adéjọbí number 1 ó ti ṣe PPRO rí bí òun ló tún jẹ́ PPRO the whole Nigeria police báyìí nísìn l'Abuja wọ́n tọ́ re wọ́n bí nílé eré wọ́n fi léere tọ́ wọ́n kọ́ lẹ́kọ̀ọ́ re òun náà dẹ̀ tún wà bẹ́ẹ̀ bẹ́ẹ̀ náà ni former PPRO tó lọ kó l'Ogun State yìí the same thing very God-fearing men làwọn méjèèjì bọ́tà àwọn kan wà tó jẹ́ pé bàbá dìgbòlugi ni wọ́n bàbá wèrè gbájági ńgbà tálejò bá wọlé táwọn ọmọ Nàìjíríà tán wà nílùú òyìnbó wọlé tẹ́ ara sí wọn débi pé ìyẹn yà àbí ẹni ẹlẹ́nu yà sá padà pé tó ẹ gbọ́ ẹ bá tó lẹ́sẹ̀ òun bí kẹ́ẹ̀gẹ́ o òun lọ́tọ̀ òun nìyẹn ó parí kí lẹ fẹ́ fi convince máa yẹn láti padà wá iṣẹ́ tí máa yẹn fẹ́ wá dálẹ̀ sí Nàìjíríà ìbẹ̀rẹ̀ pẹ̀pẹ̀ lẹ́ti ilé lọ aya lọ máa fowó ẹ̀ ṣe nǹkan rí lọ́hùn. There are a lot of Nigerians out there tó ti fi wàlú wà báyìí discourage wọ́n jí wọn gbé bí o wọ́n gbé wọn lọ́hùn tó jẹ́ kí wọ́n wá sílùú ìwà ṣe nǹkan rí síbẹ̀ ẹlòmíì ti fojú kan Nàìjíríà sìn kódà mi lè sọdún tó ti dé Nàìjíríà ìgbẹ̀yìn ilé dẹ̀ ń wá ṣé kó wá kẹ́ẹ̀jì gbé kó wá kọ́lọ́pàá ṣe ń tán ṣe yìí a lot mọ yẹn ní ti kú dànù arákùnrin tó pa s'Ógbómọ̀ṣọ́ ńjọ́ sí kó mọ̀ kó má wálé hòtẹ́ẹ̀lì ló wá dálẹ̀ o ìjọwọ́ ọ̀tẹ̀ tó ló ní fáàmù wọn ò fi láàánú pápápá wọ́n tún gbowó wọ́n tún gba 5 million lọ́wọ́ fámílì kí ni ìjọba Nàìjíríà rí ṣe sí jàre nothing was done till now Amẹ́ríkà yà wá gbókù ọmọ wọn gbé lọ àbúrò mi wálé láì ní bí 2-3 years ago láti Germany mo ríran wò jọ yẹn àwọn ọmọ ẹ̀ méjì tó kó wá tó bí sọ́hùn ìṣẹ́jú ni wọ́n pè lọ pé bọ̀ kò sọ fún wọn pé Nàìjíríà lòun bọ̀ kò sọ bóyá Togo àbíbì kan ló bá wọlé ló sọ fún wọn pé òun bọ̀ wọn náà gbọ́dọ̀ mọ̀ pé Nàìjíríà ló wá náà pè lọ pé bọ̀ lórí WhatsApp ni mo gbọ́ WhatsApp call ẹlẹ́rún á ní kó gbé fóònù fọmọ àwọn fẹ́ gbọ́ kó kán ọmọ yẹn sọ̀rọ̀ àwọn méjèèjì wọ́n á sọ̀rọ̀ ìṣẹ́jú they were so concerned ó ní tó bá mọ̀ pé Nàìjíríà ló ń kó ọ ní wọ́n gba ọmọ ẹ̀ lọ́wọ́ òun tí ìṣe àwọn náà bá bí bàbá yẹn ṣe fídíò lórí tójú ẹ̀ rí ní Nàìjíríà ẹ gbọ́ fídíò yẹn mò ń bọ̀.
Without the intervention of a crowd of young Igbo young men who saved me from the hands of the Nigeria police attached to the Festac Mile 2 station, I would be a dead man today. I arrived Lagos today. I came in through Ghana and decided to enter Nigeria by road so I could see the lagoon landscape. riding a jeep that I hired to drive me down. Everything went well in Ghana, Togo, Benin Republic until I stepped into Nigeria. Nadia trouble start. Ooh. The first immigration checkpoint that we encountered was at the Simi border on the Nigeria side. One of immigration officers took a look at me and said, "Come down, Oga." To cut a long story short, they robbed me of $500. There were many of them, and they invited them to their shed. They took my hand luggage with all the money that I brought from the US. Their excuse was that they wanted to search it to see if it contained contrabands. They asked for my Nigeria passport. I told them it had expired and I was in Nigeria to renew it. They said it was an offense for me to enter the country with an expired passport. I apologized, but they wanted none of that. They said I had to settle them. They had my wallet containing the money I brought to spend in Nigeria. They saw two $20 notes and said I needed to give them these notes, otherwise they would seize all the money in the wallet and take me to their office to make a statement. I had heard stories of visitors to the country ending up dead when the police invited them to their offices to clear some issues. So I eagerly gave them the $40. They gave me back my things, but when I counted my money later, $500 was missing. Then the Jeep driver drove me to the Festac Mile 2 motor park, where another driver I hired to take me to Ile Ife was waiting. My two suitcases were on the floor at the Mile 2 Festac in public, right under the large gate to Festac. I was narrating my ordeal in the hands of the immigrations to my driver when three gun-toting police officers appeared. They wanted to see the content of my bags. As they searched the bags, they came upon the money I brought from the US. I introduced myself to them as a professor at the University of Texas, Austin. They asked for identifications. I gave them my driving license, the university-issued ID card, my US passport, and my Nigeria passport. They took them from me. By that time, about 10 police officers had descended upon me. Also listening were some Igbo guys hanging out at the motor park. Before you could say, "Kilo day," the police officers searched me thoroughly. Then they started searching my bag. They found that my suitcases contained my personal effects. They were interested in a pair of shorts, which they said looked like camouflage shorts. They pulled out the shorts. Then there was a sculpture that they decided to seize my suitcases, hand luggage, Idaho cards, and all of my money. They said I had to follow them to the police station. At this point, a sizable crowd of some 50 people had gathered. One of them, with an obvious Igbo accent, said, "You can see he is a professor from abroad. He has given you several ID cards, including his passports. Wetin you dey find again?" It was like a signal to the others, who began shouting, "You want kill am? You people are thieves, oh, highway robbers. It can never happen. Una don see money, una eyes don open." Two of them jumped into the police vehicle and dragged out my bags from the vehicle. They accosted the one who held the wallet containing my ID card and my money, shouting, "You better give him back his wallet and money now, otherwise Wahala will burst." Another said, "We will not let you take him to the police station to kill him like you always do, international visitors." In a matter of moments, about 100 Igbo boys emerged from thin air and surrounded us. The police officers saw they were clearly outnumbered by these Igbo motor park boys. Though some of the police officers carried rifles, they saw that the situation was clearly beyond what they imagined. The police officer who held my wallet, passports, and ID cards quickly handed them back to me. The Igbo boys carried my suitcases on their heads. The boys seemingly closed in on the police officers, ready to attack them for my protection. The police officers jumped inside their vehicles and drove off to save face, their tails curled behind their brocos. I recalled the traumatic moment I left the country in 1992 and swore, "If you see me in this God-forsaken country again, cut off my neck." Obviously, the country has fallen much lower since then, and is now a danger zone in which men in uniform of all descriptions, immigrations, customs, police, vehicle inspection officers and others wearing uniforms difficult to define, they have all taken over the country and made it difficult for citizens to enjoy, or even just subsist in their own country. Which kind ensogbu bidis o? It is a geographical zone best avoided if you can, but for the intervention of these Igbo boys, I could be locked up in a cell at the Mile 2 Festac police office now, or dead, and my body disposed of. Someone needs to do something somehow, if they want to save the citizens of Nigeria from law enforcement officers paid to protect the lives of the people, but jeopardizing the very existence of the citizens they took an oath to assist. God bless these Igbo boys who rescued me from the hands of the obnoxious police officers at the Mile 2 Festac today. I'm sure not all police officers are bad, But those police Mile-Toe Festac officers who attacked me for daring to return to Nigeria on a visit were evil, and worse than maggots.
ẹnu oníkànlá tí gbọ́ pọ̀ òun náà lẹ ti gbọ́ yẹn fídíò ẹlẹ́wọ̀n tí mo kà jáde náà ṣe sí fídíò yẹn máa yẹn ní láyé òun o Nàìjíríà mi ò mọjọ́ tá a fẹ́ bọ́nu eléyìí. Now mo gbọ́ kinní kan tó yà mí lẹ́nu nínú bọ́jẹ̀tì tí wọ́n ṣe lọ́dọ̀ Senate Minister for Trade and Commerce wọ́n lọ defend the budget ní Abuja. Adams Oshiomhole ń bi wọ́n léèrè very technical questions but the woman revealed one thing níbẹ̀ tí ò yé mi. Wọ́n ní Ministry of Trade and Commerce wọn ò mọ terms of trade wa báwo ni ọjà ṣe ń tà sí, báwo la ṣe export sí, báwo ni importation, wọn ò mọ kankan pa ẹ̀. A ṣe mọ̀ ẹ lọ́wọ́ àwọn tó ń fi síbẹ̀ fúlàní tí ò mọ nǹkan kan, àwọn tó ń mọ nǹkan kan nípa iṣẹ́ yẹn rárá ni wọ́n ń gbé síbẹ̀ látọ̀dún ìwá as minister. Not until when we start putting round pegs in round holes Nigeria economy ṣì máa ní problem ni. Orí ẹ gbọ́rọ̀ lẹ́nu woman yẹn orí mi wú gbàtí no ẹ rí i pé woman yẹn wà competent, she knows what she's doing. Bó tiẹ̀ tí n kò jẹ́ pé àwọn senate náà papà kò ṣẹ̀kẹ̀ṣẹ̀kẹ̀ sí lọ́wọ́ bọ́ obìnrin yẹn rí fíìl àwọn kankan tí mo rí bẹ́ẹ̀ tí mo mọ̀ pé ìlú yìí kọ́lọ́ ń tún ṣe ni délẹ̀. Wọ́n ti bà Nàìjíríà jẹ́ jù bá ṣe rò lọ, jìnnà gan. Ọlọ́run nìkan ló lè tún ṣe o, Ọlọ́run nìkan ló lè bá a tún ṣe. But with the crop of the set of ministers tí mo ṣì ń rí yìí, I think most of them, not all, but most of them are round peg in round holes. Tí mo rí pé àwọn tí mo ṣì ń rí àwọn kọ̀ọ̀kan wà tí mo rí tí wọ́n fit ibi tí wọ́n kó wọn sí yẹn. Bí internal affairs máa ti take our steps kan tí mo like, bí minister for works ó ti take our steps kan tí mo like, ó náà tún ní minister for trade and commerce àtúntì rí ẹ gbọ́rọ̀ lẹ́nu woman yẹn. This video reveals a lot of things nípa country yìí. Èmi deduce mo wo video mi dẹ̀ bọ́ lójú mi pé a lot of things ló wrong. Láti tún lu ìṣe ó need overhauling first toro ti rust. Wọ́n kọ́kọ́ overhaul ẹ̀ wọ́n ẹ̀ṣẹ̀ máa wá wo òkè ńgbà tá overhaul ẹ̀ tán apá tó bàjẹ́ ń bí báwo la ṣe fẹ́ ṣe, ẹsẹ̀ tó bàjẹ́ ń bí báwo la ṣe fẹ́ ṣe. It is then they will be so irú yẹn terms of trade okay Ministry of Trade and Commerce àbí ọ̀dà pé Ministry of Trade and Commerce ni. So ministry yẹn wọn ò mọ terms of trade, wọ́n ní kò sí data yẹn lọ́dọ̀ àwọn. Wọ́n ṣẹ̀ṣẹ̀ wá sọ pé woman yẹn ló fẹ́ dá kinní kan lẹ̀ sí ó ti kọ́ sí budget. Kinní yẹn lè máa fáwọn ní normal data tó yẹ káwọn ní. Wọ́n ṣẹ̀ṣẹ̀ fẹ́ ṣe normal thing tó yẹ kí wọ́n ṣe tẹ́lẹ̀. How can you tell me Ministry of Trade and Commerce wọn ò ní data lọ́wọ́? Ó ní bóyá Central Bank àti custom àbí nǹkankan ló ní lọ́wọ́. And that has shown where there is the lawlessness and corruption is in Nigeria. Agbọ́n kan tí kinní sọ lánàá nínú fídíò tá play lánàá Sanusi Lamido Sanusi ẹ wo bí máa náà ṣe sọ̀rọ̀. When are we getting there? Kò yé mi mọ́, mo ti dé kòríta kò yé mi mọ́ báyìí. Mo ti débẹ̀ ìkóríta kò yé mi mọ́. Ẹni tó sáré sọ́tún sáré sósì pé káwọn revive ẹ̀. Àdúrà mi sọ́lọ́ nìkan ló ń fún wọn ṣe. I will continue praying for the man, which is the president. kọ́ lọ́n fún wọn ṣe ọdún tó lọ́n bá fún wọn ṣe lẹ́yìn tó lọ́n bá fún wọn ṣe tán ṣáwọn tó bàjẹ́ kọ́ ló tún máa gbàjọba. That is my question. ẹ jẹ́ fi yín lẹ̀ pẹ̀lú woman ẹ jẹ́ fi wá lẹ̀ pẹ̀lú ẹ̀ ó yẹ bá mi play.
National Assembly, we will come to you to sit down and brainstorm on some of the trade policies that we think will take the country forward. And we can look at them holistically so that we don't also disadvantage any sector of the economy. We'll definitely be knocking on your doors very soon, as we have a lot of ideas on what we think that we can propose to take the country forward. On ease of doing business, well, currently I'm also the vice chairman of the ease of doing business committee, and we're looking at how to reduce this cost of doing business in Nigeria. Unfortunately, like you mentioned, Honorable, there are lots of issues in the country. Insecurity, cost of power, logistics, multiple taxation, multiple roadblocks, and even the import tariffs, duties, and all of that. We, as a government, are very mindful of this and working assiduously using the ease of doing business that is being financed by the World Bank to ensure that we actually remove the bottlenecks and reduce as much as we can the cost of doing business in Nigeria. This is so important that we must do that now, because now if the African Continental Free Trade Agreement kicks in and Nigeria is not a minimum cost producer, we will be disadvantaged. It means that we will continue to be import dependent. The African Continental Free Trade Agreement means that there's a removal of tariff between countries in Africa to trade. And we cannot reject any import that comes into Nigeria because it is against the agreement. We will be obliged to accept whatever comes into the country as an import. Now, you can only import, so we would then be leveraging on free trade to reject some import because it's expensive. That's the law of competition, right? So if the products that are imported, even under the free trade agreement, is more expensive than the one you locally produce, consumers will naturally buy the ones that are cheaper using the law of demand and supply. This is what we will leverage on. It therefore means that for Nigeria to be competitive, we must drop our cost of doing business. We must. There is no brainer to it. So this ease of doing business thing is one thing I can assure you that I will champion with the best of my strength to ensure that we find ways of dropping the cost of manufacturing, especially in Nigeria. We must be competitive and the country must survive. We want to get to the point of being a net exporter of finished goods and manufactured goods, not a net importer of finished goods and manufactured goods. At the moment, we're exporting a lot of our raw material. The president has given a mandate that he wants to see export of value added of semi-processed or even finished goods out of Nigeria, not raw materials. For us to be able to achieve this and be competitive or achieve a comparative advantage, we must drop our cost of doing business. So I want to assure you that this is on our front burner and we'll do all we can to do it. And this is why I was asking for. So we have 22 departments in the ministry, over 2,000 staff, and we are present in every state of the country. I would like to talk about the balance of trade. Your Excellency, when I entered the office, that was the first thing I asked for. And it is unfortunate to mention here that we do not have that record in the Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment. That record probably exists, but not with the ministry. It exists with the Customs and the Central Bank. If you look in my budget line, there is a line item I provided there for trade intelligence. I propose to set up a trade intelligence unit right in my office. The purpose of the trade intelligence unit is to gather data. There is no way the Minister of Trade of any nation I know of can formulate or promulgate policies that is not based on data or that is not based on scientific evidence. We don't have that data. The data that we can even get from customs is also not accurate because we are still using manual methods of collecting data rather than automated method of collecting data. If you look at in the most industrialized countries, when goods even come in, there is very minimal manual or human intervention with their goods that come in, their cargo. From the time, from origination, when cargo leaves the point of origination to when they get into the destination port, there is automated tracking. Custom is already aware of what is coming in. When it comes in, it's scanned at the port of entry. So all of this data, the quantity you're bringing in, the item itself that you're bringing, the description, is available. It's in digital format. Now we are using AI technology to do a lot of data mining. Nigeria does not have.
We were interviewing or screening the CBN management. I talk about the fact that there's no country in which government agencies, the monetary authority, the fiscal authority, and I specifically mentioned Ministry of Trade. So Central Bank knows how much it gives for export, and they also monitor what is imported into the country. And you have Ministry of Transportation, Customs. You are also supposed to share data. And I have heard ministers of finance and other agencies talking about balance of trade between us and these countries. To say that you are driving your car in the Ministry of Trade without dashboard, you don't even know your speed limits. Sir, this is serious.
Thank you very much.
Well, we're working on it, Your Excellency.
What is the balance of trade between Nigeria and the United Kingdom? Most of our major trading partners. And when I talk about balance of trade, delete oil. Because that one is an international product. So that we can appreciate how much we have gained in terms of giving all the money we spent over the years on export promotion and all the institutions we've set up, whether they are banks, they are commission, whatever they are, so that it will give us a window whether we are not just throwing money away. We probably have far more institutions, whether financial institutions or other commissions, with the one primary objective to promote export. So by the time you give us this figure, it will give us an idea. Number two, not be found in your office and be found elsewhere. He claimed to know where you were. I don't know whether he's tracking you. But there is one major thing that I've seen in all the committees that I've attended, and this is something the Senate has to look at. Every time Nigeria has to travel, including your ministry, I use the word, and excuse me, but we need to be brutally frank, but not brutal to people, but in terms of calling a spade a spade. We always have the largest delegation of Nigerians to trade missions. Now I see in your proposal, you have trade mission in Geneva, and you are going to spend almost over 1.70 billion naira to maintain your Geneva office, which means ideally you have trade experts in that office. And when I used to go to Geneva, where Nigerian ministers go with 30-man delegation, America will use their trade officers in Geneva to attend those meetings. They are just pure technical people. In Nigeria, the minister will lead the delegation, and by the time you multiply now, I don't know what the ETA code is now, times 1,000, whatever it is, you'll find that ministers in trying to help put their people on trips, they don't attend the meetings, and they spend most of that time shopping at the expense of taxpayers. And that is paid substantially, while you will find huge overhead, huge overhead. I'm just asking myself, you are going to spend in your ministry 900 and, that is headquarters alone, 905 million naira. And sometimes when you put for 202 kobo, I really don't know how these numbers are generated, because nobody sees kobo anymore. It doesn't exist. And every budget they put it there as if it was meant to be a joke. Budget is meant to be an honest statement, not a formality. So you spend so much money on overhead. Number two, you are arguing the case for waivers. For me, the most corrupt tools of government is to make law for everyone, and then for those you favor, you now grant them waiver to breach that law. Government must be seen to be fair to all. If we are going to have fair competition, and we have opted for free market, why should we even have thing called waiver? I think my plea to Mr. Chairman, sir, is that going forward, the National Assembly has the right to legislate, to curtail the power of those who exercise this discretion, because they are abused. Honorable Minister, be clear, this is not about you, but there has to be a day to wake up. You know, somebody asked about Volkswagen, about Peugeot Automobile, about Leyland, about there was one in Bauchi where they produce tractors. Steer. It is our trade policies. This submission, recklessly in my view, to so-called WTO rules and so on, and then we expose ourselves to all kinds of goods and services coming in. Let me just ask you one question. When you go to a restaurant, and as the Minister of Trade, you pick a toothpick and it's made in China, that toothpick is illegally imported and drawing the forex from our increasingly impoverished central bank? Or how does it come in? Under our laws, should toothpick not made in Nigeria be found in the Nigerian market? I'm going for this ridiculous one because each time I go out and I see toothpick, they have this small packaging, nice packaging, but it's imported. And then we talk about promoting trade. How? So there's something you need to speak to. And, okay. Time is always a problem here. Provided that next time, sir, we will not be rushed to approve money because we are in a hurry. Because those who pay taxes don't earn the money in a hurry. They sweat. We must be sure, not assuming, sir. No, excuse me. Custom officer implements trade policies. They do not formulate the tariff policies. They collect what has been imposed on them. Yeah, but you shouldn't be tired so much that not to know the difference. It's my father. It's my father. He knows we are good friends. So I just want to say, Madam, looking at this thing, we spend a lot of money on the Ministry of Trade. But maybe by the time I see the balance of trade between us and our major trading partners, I will be able to see, and I would think in future, we ought to be able to say, over the past 5 years, this is the growth we have recorded, or this is how we have stagnated, so that we have overall view. And as I said, the question, should we spend money in a ministry that is not promoting local production? I want us to set up a target, sir, where we should say, for example, all the cars in Nigeria, all those tires they were using in the past, not during Mongo Park era, just in the 80s, they were in Nigeria. In the early 90s, you have Michelin, you have Dunlop, you have several of them that were producing tires in Nigeria using rubber that is made or planted in my part of the country. And all of these are gone now. Any car you see on the road, the tire is imported. What are your plans to make a review? The reason I ask you, I didn't come to the Senate to lament. And Mr. President said during our campaign, and I believe he meant it, it is can-do spirit. So we are not going to continue, as this budget suggests, with old traditions, right? So you need to tell us, what are we going to do differently to get all the tires we're using in Nigeria made in Nigeria? The policy that brought them before was by government that says, in the military, unfortunately, rather interestingly, that says, if you want to sell tires in Nigeria, locate in Nigeria. If you want to take to clothes 200 million Nigerians locate the textile factories in Nigeria. If you want to, because the only thing we have to sell to the world is our population. And so if you want to patronize that huge market of 200 million people, my friend, locate in Nigeria. That was the policy. It didn't occur by accident. And once we revise the policies, now, from what you are telling me, all the Toyotas on the road, and we have perhaps per capita the highest number of Toyota vehicles in Nigeria. I'm using what? We need to have a policy that seeks to make a complete huge change. Otherwise, year in year, I will go through these rituals. Not you will complete your tenure in 4 years. Our dependence will be much more than it was before you came. That has been the Lord of your predecessors, and may that not be the Lord of you and of the 10th National Assembly. Fighting for Nigeria. You do.
BGI TV yìí mo fẹ́ máa wò, ọ̀rọ̀ tó jẹ tí ń gbèsè mo fẹ́ gbọ́, ètò lóríṣiríṣi wọ́n wà lọ́lọ́kan òjọ̀kan, ìròyìn tó kojú òṣùwọ̀n àtàwọn ọ̀rọ̀ àgbọ́ fi kọ́gbọ́n, eré wọlé fún tẹ̀rù tọmọ, tèwe tàgbà ẹ má fi para. BGI TV yìí mo fẹ́ máa wò, ọ̀rọ̀ tó jẹ tí ń gbèsè mo fẹ́ gbọ́, ètò lóríṣiríṣi wọ́n wà lọ́lọ́kan òjọ̀kan, ìròyìn tó kojú òṣùwọ̀n àtàwọn ọ̀rọ̀ àgbọ́ fi kọ́gbọ́n, eré wọlé fún tẹ̀rù tọmọ, tèwe tàgbà ẹ má fi para. Àjànàkú kọjá mo rí nǹkan fèrè, bàbá rìnrìn káwí parí. BGI TV, we are the pace setter. Bàbá gbàgede ìmọ̀ tẹlifíṣọ̀n station tí dòde.